because people look up to us as leaders, as spiritual leaders. And so there's this illusion, and I emphasize illusion. Illusion means it's not real.
Because that's what it is.
There's this illusion that people have of us that we sit at the right hand of God. Right? We have this person. And then the problem is that some of us pastors believe that.
Yes.
Right? And so what happens is that when we are struggling with burnout, oftentimes we try to maintain a positive public appearance.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, no matter how depressed you are, Sunday's coming.
Yeah.
Right? Sunday's coming. So you got to get ready for church. And, what was it, the joke? Like, I don't think I've ever met a pastor whose answer to the question, how are you, isn't fine. Once I just love to hear a pastor one morning say, you know what? I don't like any of you today. I'm really angry. Like, just be straight up honest, right?
Oh, sure. Hello and welcome to today's Nigerian Pastors Podcast. Happy to be with you as always. My name is Reverend Sati, and I am here with no other but Reverend Segun Aiyegbusi.
What's up? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
So today we have a very interesting topic we're going to be focusing on. And as usual, it's all about pastoral ministry. But today we're going to be focusing on burnout.
Yes.
So pastoral ministry and the challenge of burnout. I'm sure you will agree with me that this is a very burning, topic.
Burning issue, yeah.
Burning issues, because it seems like pastors were not very good handling burnout.
I would say even more so since, I think it was present before COVID, but every stat that I read, what is they call the great resignation since COVID?
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of pastors were really pushed to the limit. And a number of pastors resigned during the season of COVID. So burnout was a real issue because all of a sudden you had to learn to do ministry in the way you hadn't done it. And so, absolutely important topic.
Yeah. So to begin with, what is burnout? All right. So just a very quick, definition. Burnout is just simply when you are experiencing an excessive or chronic, physical and emotional exhaustion. So that is what burnout, it's all about. And mostly this is accompanied by some attitude of skepticism, the attitude of skepticism and detachment. You tend to want to just pull yourself out.
Stay away from humans.
Humans.
Yeah. Which considering you're a pastor, probably not the best place for this. It makes your job next to impossible.
Sure. And of course, burnout cuts across every profession and all that. But then it seems to be so prominent or more prevalent with pastors, in ministry.
Well, our calling is people. Right. So if your calling is people and burnout makes you not want to be around people, that creates a conflict. That's right. I love what one pastor said. He says, I forget who he is. So whoever it is, please take the credit. But he says, burnout is what happens when our inner life with God is no longer able to sustain our outer work for God.
Wow.
Right. So there's a conflict between what we're sensing and what we're doing. Man, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
And I appreciated what you said earlier. You're right. Burnout cuts across every industry, across every job. But in pastoral ministry, this kind of people are coming to you for heart type stuff.
Yeah.
And so how do you minister to someone when you're running on empty?
Yeah, that's true. So that's what you're kind of like looking at burnout now within the pastoral context.
Sure.
Quite often I would say we are more vulnerable or we are more disposed to getting experiencing burnout.
Okay.
Even for the reason, because of the roles and the duties we play.
Yeah.
carrying people's burden.
Yeah.
That in itself alone, it's something that can really weigh you down.
That's a combination of like there's this thing called compassion fatigue, right? Compassion fatigue is just this point where, you're tired of caring for people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it could be I really like the definition of just, oftentimes it's when stuff is off in our own heart, it's hard to pour into the heart of others, because when others come, I think pastoral ministry is unique in that people come to you regardless of whether you're an expertise in it.
That's true.
If they're running for office, pastor, pray for me. If a child is sick, pastor, pray for me. At least here in Nigeria, people come to you in areas that you're not an expert in to seek your counsel. And so it's really hard, because at some point you just I got nothing to give. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop that line of people who are seeking your help.
True.
So
that's true. Yeah. And then sometimes we kind of give this disposition of the Superman. Yeah, you can bring it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can take it all,
Sure.
I don't know. But then deep inside, we have this disposition that we give to our members, and then we feel like we can actually take everybody's burden.
Yeah.
But, forgetting the fact that, hey, we're also human.
Yeah.
And we can actually break down as a result of just taking it, and then couple with administrative work. So it's not just about caring for people and trying to help people, encourage them to stand in the midst of difficulties. You also have the administrative jargons to deal with.
Yeah, because seminary trains you to do theology and maybe pastoral work, but it doesn't. Not all. I mean, my seminary did. Some Alliance Theological Seminary in New York prepared me well, but I say a lot of seminaries don't prepare you for the aspects of ministry that I learned in seminary. I did skip counseling classes because I wanted to be focused on theology.
Oh wow!
And I remember my first ministry. Folks did not want to hear me exegete the Book of Romans. Oh, wow. They wanted to talk about wounds that they had here, and I remember thinking, I am ill-equipped for this, not only in counseling, but even in, like you said, accounting, those kinds of things that wouldn't prepare people for that.
That's true.
I think about, when I think about my own life, because I think I've shared this in past episodes, and obviously with this issue, but I think earlier this year, all right. So here's a little secret. I guess I was going to share testimony of what happened earlier this year, but I realized by the time that we publish this, it'll be 2024. Oh. So a little secret, we actually recorded this podcast way in advance. So early in 2023, we just gave away our secret. Early in 2023, around January, March, man, I hit a wall. I hit a wall. We're serving here. And I think what happened was, it was a combination of me not managing my schedule well. I really was overworking myself. I wasn't doing a lot of personal self-care. I wasn't taking any time to rest and recuperate. And then I think a combination that and the fact that I don't think I didn't set up our leadership team in a way that empowered others to do ministry. Oh, wow. So everyone was reporting to me. And I remember, I bring this up to say this, that for me, one of the indicators that I knew I was getting burnout was when people came to knock on my door, I would get angry. I would get upset because I'm I want to study the Bible to minister to pastors, which was ridiculous. I'm studying to love people, but yet I don't want people to bother me. It was so let's transition from there then, because I should have to say, I mean, I've gone through it. I was getting easily irritated. I wasn't sleeping well at night. My left eyeball, would constantly twitch. Wow. I know, it was weird, and then I don't know. I feel like I lost passion and vision. So by God's grace, I recognized it. We actually took 3 months furlough to actually travel and rest and recuperate. But I think that's a good transition though. Let's talk about what are specifically for pastors or ministry leaders. What are some indicators or symptoms that someone is experiencing?
Yeah, very important. And I think let's even begin from your story. Okay. Emotional exhaustion. Yeah. I mean, you said something that, you are studying to minister to people,
but I don't want people to bother me. Yeah, it was embarrassing when I realized. I was like, leave my office so I can tell you about Jesus, so I can tell you about Jesus later. I know, it's really bad.
That's like by implication what you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, I mean, we can bring that down to emotional exhaustion.
Absolutely.
I mean, we are just frequently having to deal with all kinds of things, and then we just lack the emotional intelligence to even manage, people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that can be a very
emotional exhaustion.
Yeah, emotional exhaustion. Yeah.
I would say the neglecting of personal self-care. And what I mean by that is that we can become so busy doing ministry that we actually don't take time to do things that give us joy.
Yeah.
And I mean true. Like little, like I love volleyball, right? Even though they seem to be more intense here in Nigeria than in the States, but I love volleyball. I love swimming. I love creating artwork and sometimes art design. And I realized like I really wasn't taking time to do that. So when you find, let me put it this way, if you find that you are neglecting time to do things, personal self-care, things that bring you joy, even physical health. Like when I say personal self-care, I wasn't watching what I was eating.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And the type of food, sugars and salt. I was in church this Sunday and the pastor, the guest speaker was preaching about when you get older, you got to watch out for alcohol and drugs. And I'm like, forget alcohol and drugs. You got to watch out for sugar and salt.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like
they can even be worse than alcohol.
They can be worse than alcohol and drugs. And so I would say when you start neglecting personal self-care, you're not paying attention to what you're consuming and both edible and both things you're engaging, that when you ignore those, that might be an indication that you are so weight loss or weight gain might be an indicator of just
that's true.
Burnout.
Yeah. Good. Now I have this openness to change in beliefs. Now this may sound, like we're not like out of the topic, but look at it. Openness to change in belief. When you are burnt out, when you come to the point where you reach the level of burnout, you become more vulnerable or more open to change in beliefs.
Theological beliefs.
Beliefs, yeah. In fact, sometimes you could even question your faith. I mean, you would even question if truly God exists. Yeah. And in fact, this is one thing that actually gets people into becoming atheists. If I if I may put it that way,
it makes you wonder, like, how many heretics, how many of them actually had a real theological issue with what the scripture said, and how much of it was burnout, right? Like how much? At least the atheists that I've met, and even some godly Christians who I felt godly, some Christians who have abandoned the faith. For the ones I've spoken to, the funny thing is their issue with Christianity wasn't all of a sudden that they read the Bible and they discovered something that caused them to change their view. It was more, I had a terrible life experience. Something happened to me, my dad, my family, and they start to question the faith. And so I think there's a correlation between emotional burnout and heresy or open to change in belief.
Yeah. And remember when we were talking about, is it emotional health and how it relates to spirituality?
Yeah.
I think this is, because when you are in the state of burnout, it's more like your emotion is gone.
Yeah.
All right. And so it has
it's burnt out.
I mean, it's burnt out. I mean, literally, So it just has a way of affecting your spirituality. Your relationship with God becomes you begin to blame God for things that you should have taken responsible for. I mean, your responsibility for.
Yeah, or that. I had this thought this week as I was pondering, I'm going through a weird season right now where it feels like the enemy has turned his attention on my life in some areas. And I was praying to God and I was wrestling with the whole why God, why, why me, why now? And a thought that struck me was when the enemy shoots, I don't even know if this is related, but I'm sharing it anyway. But when the enemy shoots fiery darts our way, right, fiery arrows, the Lord in his mercy protects us and watches over us. But it seems to me, as I look at my life, as I listen to the testimony of others, it seems to me, and I got to be careful what I'm going to say next here, but it seems to me that God, in his sovereign wisdom, might sometimes allow some arrows to come through, not to torture us, not to hurt us, but perhaps to shape us or to force us to grow. I share that to say that my voice is getting louder, but I share that to say that even for me, that was kind of what I was pondering this week. Like there's some things that are going on in my life. There are a bunch of things God's protected me from, but there's some things that seem to be to be really and as I was praying through it, I felt the Lord was like, this is not intended to break you. It's intended to shape you. So I say that to say that if out of emotional exhaustion you start pondering abandoning the faith because God hasn't come through, is it possible that those are arrows, those questions are arising because the Lord wants to use it to shape you? That's just something I was pondering this week.
And come to think of it, the truth is, if you are even able to come out of it, your beliefs become stronger,
right?
Ever.
Yeah.
Something hurts. In fact, many of you are experiencing pain and heartache in places in your life you may not even realize you were wounded. Let me share with you real quick 3 warning signs that you are in need of soul care like yesterday. Number 1, you may have a secret addiction that you've been turning to for help to relieve stress. Number 2, you constantly criticize yourself and cannot seem to shut off your internal negative self-talk. Number 3, you may have been having problem trusting people lately or are becoming increasingly short-tempered with people close to you. Listen to me. You will keep repeating what you don't repair. And this can be problematic, especially if you are in a leadership role with spiritual influence over others, because you will inevitably produce more of who you are. So we want to help you experience freedom from any unhealthy habits or any unhealthy thought patterns or any sinful behavior that has a strong hold over your life. So on May 1st to 3rd, 3 days, we are hosting our first ever online soul care seminar that we want to invite you to sign up for. This 3-day seminar is for ministry leaders, church leaders, youth leaders, and pretty much anyone who is responsible for the spiritual care and well-being of any group of people. So whether you're a parent, a pastor, or a community group leader. And during this seminar, we're going to guide you in exploring the root causes of your behaviors, addressing things like wounds, lies, vows that negatively impact your life. We'll also discuss things like father wounds and mother wounds and help you gain a better perspective on how your family of origin has shaped your life. Listen, it's time to break free and to start living your life from a place of freedom. So click on the link on the bio or in the caption and sign up for our Soul Care online seminar today.
I would say, I think I hinted at it already. What I would say is another indicator of burnout is obviously physical health. Or a decline in physical health. Or even little symptoms like things like constant headaches, twitching of eyes. For me, that was a real thing. Generally, say headaches and tummy aches, stomach aches are generally indicators of constant worry. Stress, heart palpitations. I know earlier this year, my heart had a weird, unusual rhythm until I went to go see a doctor. So I would say watch out for physical health issues. Some of it may just be that you're stressed and you need rest.
I mean, there are quite a number of diseases: blood pressure, high blood pressure.
All kinds of
ulcer. I realized that ulcer can also be as a result of
just constantly worrying. Absolutely. And the funny thing is, we have a number of pastors who complain specifically of ulcers, or at least in my context here, a lot of tummy ache, which I'm just like, it's a beginning of words.
So another thing, it's strained relationships, or you're always having conflicts with relationships. Again, back to your story. Because of the way you're probably emotionally drained, people are knocking at your door and you lack the
compassion
to even the courtesy to say, hey, come in, just listen to them. And so relationship can actually be strained or be full of conflict when one is experiencing burnout.
And I think also too, there's this tendency, if you find that everyone has become an enemy. Right? Like everyone is, if you're feeling like everyone is opposing you, it's possible that no one's opposing you, you're just really stressed.
That's
right?
True. That's true.
That's what happens when we're experiencing burnout. It's like everyone's out to get me, even people who may have nothing to do directly with what we're going through. So it's that sense of conflict, and I find that it often starts at home in the sense that our families as pastors, our family members are usually the one to feel the weight or the sting of burnout because the impatience starts with them.
That's
very
true.
short-tempered.
That's true.
And then it just carries over into ministry.
And at the end of the day, you become isolated. You know, nobody wants to come close to you, and all of that. So your relationship with people becomes so mad.
And then I think the last one I would say is not only spiritual struggles, and I think what I'm really referring there is this idea of prayer becomes a burden.
Yeah, that's true.
When
that's
prayer starts to feel like work, chances are, first of all, there's a disconnection from the Father's heart.
That's true.
When prayer or Bible study or sermon prep or when it starts to feel like a burden,
like work,
some of that is a spiritual attack. But the enemy often the enemy. It seems to me the enemy takes advantage of what's already broken in our lives. Right?
True.
It doesn't just if you're standing, he's probably not coming after you. But if there's this hint of weakness in there, the enemy leverages that, and so if you find that, prayer feels burdensome, or Bible study feels burdensome, or any spiritual thing, fasting feels burdensome, it might be an indicator.
Because we should enjoy this. We should be glad. I mean, like the psalmist will say, I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the Lord. I mean, the house of the Lord. I mean, serving the Lord, praying, going for Bible study should gladden our heart. We should look forward for it. But when it becomes like work, and then something is wrong, we need to kind of check our.
I absolutely remember. That season I was going through, I just remember prayer. It felt like work. I couldn't even form. And it's a difference between then and now where. Honestly, like I'm eager to go to the Lord with a lot of things that are on my heart, and so.
So now let's talk about how pastors respond to burnout generally.
Okay.
So
I'm laughing because of this idea that, in pastoral ministry, we tend not to show or want to show our weakness. Because people look up to us as leaders, as spiritual leaders. And so there's this illusion. And I emphasize illusion. Illusion means it's not real.
Because that's what it is.
There's this illusion that people have of us that we sit at the right hand of God. Right? We have this person. And then the problem is that some of us pastors believe that.
Yes.
Right. And so what happens is that when we are struggling with burnout, oftentimes we try to maintain a positive public appearance.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, no matter how depressed you are, Sunday's coming. Right? Sunday's coming. So you got to get ready for church. And, what was it, the joke? Like, I don't think I've ever met a pastor whose answer to the question, how are you, isn't fine. Well, once I just love to hear a pastor one morning say, you know what? I don't like any of you today. I'm really angry. Like, just be straight up honest, right?
Sure.
But I think, I said, the problem with a facade is that a facade, meaning a fake front, is that you can only wear it for so long. So let me go from there, right, to talk about factors that contribute to burnout, because I think it'll impact the response.
Sure.
So one, I would say, is one of the factors that contribute to burnout in our encounter with pastors is, number one, I would say unrepentance. Unrepentance, right? I say that to say, if the key to success in your life is hearing from God and being close to God, it's hard to perform your duty.
Certainly.
When there's sin in your life that's hindering you from drawing close to God, right? Because there's this internal guilt, there's this internal shame. So, and I want to emphasize, I said unrepentant sin, because we all have sin.
Oh, sure.
Right? But the sin there's no sin in your life that is greater than the cross of Jesus Christ. The only thing that keeps you from running to him is unrepentance. And so there's this in Psalm 32, verse 3-5. David says this. He says, I love this. He says, when I kept silent about my sin, my body wasted away through my groanings all day long. For day and night your hand of displeasure was upon me. My energy, my vitality and strength was drained away as with burning heat. So there's this idea that when you hold things in that you're battling with, it'll continue to eat away at you. So I would say, if you are finding any of those indicators we talked about, the first question I would ask is there any unrepentant sin that you need to confess to God?
I mean, what we see here from the Psalm it's burnout.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, he's burned out.
Of course.
Yeah. What is this? Psalm 32?
Yeah, 32. You know, he said, my body wasted away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you think, is it possible that this is after his activity with Bathsheba?
Maybe.
Right. I mean, I'm speculating here, but right. Like this, because that's the only time we know David didn't, at least that we think he didn't confess before Nathan confronted him. Yeah. Like, so I would say that for pastors, man, live. One of my mentors used to say, live a confessional life before God. Like keep your account fresh every morning, right? God's mercies are new every morning. So come before him.
That's true.
I know you're going to share some, but so let me do the four that I have, right? So the second thing I would say contributes to pastoral burnout is, believe it or not, your age or the stage in life you're in. I was thinking about how there are three stages of ministry I would describe. There's your early career in ministry, there's your mid-career in ministry, and then there's your later career in ministry. And so for young pastors who come into ministry, you know, I don't know about you, but when I started ministry, I was very ambitious. Like I thought I was the next Black Billy Graham. Like I was like, you know, and I was like, I'm going to start a ministry and it's going to grow. We're going to take on New Jersey. And for like the first year of ministry, I think like 40, I started with 40 people. I think the ministry grew down to 25.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I was like, this is not Billy Graham, you know? And so I think early part of ministry, if you come in with unrealistically high expectations of what ministry is, you may experience burnout because you're pursuing your own goals and your own dreams. In mid-career, for pastors who are mid-career, and there's no definitive number to define what stage that is, but I would say this might be where pastors experience a plateau, right? So they expected that when they were in ministry, they would have done this, reached this. But then you find out that you're still an associate pastor at a church and you're not giving a lot of responsibilities. And so that you know, in fact, we generally think of burnout as a result of overworking, but sometimes burnout can be a result of being underutilized. Where you feel like I have a lot more in me, but I don't have a platform. I don't have a venue to do this.
Yeah, you should have been somewhere, but then you're not where you should be.
Absolutely. You know? So, that can lead to burnout too. So I would say that's, and then late career, I would say, and I actually saw this with a number of pastors when I was even recently, but so there's this whole new, you know, we're becoming a technocracy now, right? Everything is technological. Right.
That's true.
I know a number of older folks in ministry who felt like they were no longer relevant. Right. Like you got folks who can't even figure out PowerPoint, much less social media. And all of a sudden you start feeling like the church doesn't need me because I'm not, which is not true. But so when I say that to say not only unrepentance, but age, sometimes be aware, what stage are you in? And that, you know, if you find like you're in later career and you're trying to imitate younger pastors, that's not a good thing. Like be you, fulfill your calling. And then I would say be aware of the life transitions you're in. So things like if you just got married, if you just had a baby, if a close family member just passed away, all of these transitions have in themselves adjustments you have to make. And if you're not aware, you may find I'm just getting stressed at work. Well, maybe it's because you have a new baby at home that's not letting you sleep. I'm not blaming the baby. I'm just saying be aware of the transition that's happened. And then lastly, I would say generational factors. But you know what? Let me leave that one alone because that's. I know you had some.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for sharing all this. Now, what I want to share is more like the correlates, all right? So by correlates, I mean, what are some things that correlate positively, meaning that it brings high burnout in your life? And then what are some things that correlate negatively, meaning that it, you know, brings low, you know, burnout or makes you not likely to get burnt out. I have, you know, quite a list of things here. So pay attention. This is, the first one is, you know, the things that correlate negatively. So the things that when you imbibe them in your heart, I mean, in your life, you know, tends to push you away from getting burned out. And here's the list: high self-confidence, all right? Involvement in recreational activities.
Wait. I got to ask.
Okay.
So does high self-confidence contribute to burnout or cause you to burn out or cause you to not burn out?
So high self-confidence correlates negatively.
Okay.
Yeah. So
overconfidence.
not overconfidence, but just having or let me just say self-confidence.
Okay.
Having confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Not looking at your inadequacies.
Okay. Okay. I get it. Yeah.
So having that kind of attitude helps. Correlates with. Actually, this is from a research.
Okay.
Among pastors.
I remember I saw the research.
And then it was seeing that these are some things that correlate.
Maybe we'll put a link to that research. So
we'll put a link.
Christian. It's
actually from an article. So we'll put that up.
Link up there, okay.
So self-confidence, more like having confidence in yourself. Not always looking at your inadequacies.
Yeah. So it's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's more of a confidence in who God's called me to be. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then of course we talked about recreational activities, leisure, sports.
Yeah.
These are and of course these are things that are very uncommon with pastors.
Yeah. We don't have fun. We don't have fun.
We don't like to go out
fast.
and just hang out.
Yeah.
We're afraid to go to the joints. And
I remember speaking to a pastor, and I say this because I met with him, he and his wife. I didn't mention his name, so it doesn't matter. But a while ago, met with him, and he told me what was going on. I said, "When was the last time you took your wife out to go and eat, just you and I?" And I'll never forget what he said. He said, "I can't take them out. He said, if my church members see us eating at a nice," and I was like, "Really? Like you're gonna let them hold you hostage?"
Yeah.
And so I would say, sometimes, recreation, like do things that you enjoy, that you and your spouse enjoy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's this one, differentiation of self from role. This is more like pulling, having this demarcation between your role as a pastor and then between who you really are as a person.
Who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and what you do. Sometimes we tend to be pastors 24 hours. Like everything about us is I'm a pastor, I'm a pastor, I'm a pastor. You need to be able to say, hey, I'm a pastor, I'm also me. All right. I'm a father, I have children, I'm a husband. All right. I'm just me.
I'm laughing because I met a non-Christian once and I was talking with him, and I'll never forget because he said, "Kai, you sound like a pastor." And I was like, my goodness, even when I'm not on duty, mentally I talk the way I talk, and it wasn't like I was preaching. It was just, but you're right. Yeah. Make it clear. There are times when even with our kids, man, I got to keep going back to the family. With our kids, sometimes we tend to unconsciously treat our children like a congregation member, right? And that's that differentiation you're talking about. No, we're dad now.
Yeah,
we're not being, Woo, that's convicting.
It's actually researched and found out that those who have the ability to show this level of differentiation between self and your role actually tend to correlate with
less stress,
with less burnout, negatively with burnout.
Wow, that's good.
And then sometimes congregational size. All right. Yeah. So if you have a manageable size,
is that true? Though? I've always wondered about that. So my background has been in big churches, like 1,000 type churches, and I've always wondered: is it less stressful because if you're in a little church, everybody knows everybody's business, whereas at a bigger church, I assume that there's probably teams of people. So I don't know. I mean,
so maybe it's more like the nature of the church.
Yeah,
more like the size. Instead of the size.
Sure.
I think it's the nature of the size, the church, the nature of the people you have there, and the administrative structure.
That's true. Yeah. What systems
so
and
more like the structure than the size. And whereas things that correlate positively, that is things that bring you closer to or even into burnout. Of course, anxiety, you're always anxious, all right? Depression, dissatisfaction with spiritual life. I think we mentioned all this in a different way. And then hours of work. Yeah. When you put in just hours and hours, you're on duty. Yeah.
You mentioned some others earlier, mentors.
Seeking mentors. Yeah. Yes. So this actually is one of those that correlates negatively, seeking mentors. So it kind of pushes you away from burnout.
Yes. Okay, So you mean positively. So so in other words, and I always say when you're looking for a mentor, absolutely, like for me, in God's mercy, I've always had godly men in every season of my life, godly mentors. In Nigeria, we call them spiritual fathers. I don't like that title because it sounds like witchcraft, but I know what they mean. You're talking about having a godly person who's in that. But absolutely. I think because there have been seasons in ministry and even in my marriage where we went to older godly couple to say, hey, we're going through this. Is this normal? And they were like, oh, you're, or even older pastors who I go to. So absolutely. I think every younger pastor should initiate a mentoring relationship with an older pastor who's been there, who can give some counsel. So, all right. So let's leverage the rest of our time together by talking about what are some practical things that pastors can do? And I think we already said some of it, but we can probably add some. What are some practical things that pastors can do to help them relieve, not relive, but RELIEV, relieve the burnout or avoid burnout or recover from burnout. Maybe not recover, but avoid.
Yeah. So we've talked about physical exercise, which is very, very important. I mean, maybe we should kind of emphasize on that.
Get up and walk.
Yeah.
It's good to study the Bible 24 hours, but you got to get up and walk.
Sure. It doesn't have to be any strenuous exercise like playing football or soccer. I mean, like in Nigeria, we call it soccer.
Yeah, football. Wherever you're listening.
I mean football, but I
think the bulk of the world calls it football. No, the world calls it football.
Yes. Yeah, but in the US, it's soccer.
Go play something.
Just go play or walk. I mean, you can take a walk or just play with your kids. Play wrestling with your.
We were what breakfast was? You came with me several weeks ago. There was a doctor presenting, a missionary doctor. Yeah. And he was like, once you get over 40, you, first of all, not only do you have to watch what you eat, but he's like, you have to have some kind of regular activity that gets, the way he said it, he's like, because he was like, do something that gets your heart pumping a little bit. So even if it's walking, like walk for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but something regular. Because of the nature of what a lot of us do, we're in the office a lot. We're sitting in front of a TV. And the goal is get up, get out, get moving. Absolutely. I would say, I think we switched this because I know you wanted this one, but do you want it? You can have it. I know you want it. You can have it. I know you wanted it. Go ahead.
Pastors, you need to relax when you rest. Because sometimes we say we rest, but not in a relaxed way. Because these are two different things. You're resting, but your mind is still working. Or sometimes your phones are all open and people are calling you and they say, I'm just resting.
Exactly, right? When you read, like, hang up the phone.
Meanwhile, you're working. You're not relaxed. So let's learn to rest in a relaxed in a restful
way. I think it's that differentiation thing you said too. Also, like, I think we really need to create healthy boundaries, right? Joshua and I are talking from experience, and I'm not even saying this to brag, but we've had the chance to train over what are we, about 3,000 pastors now in the last 2 years. And these are testimonies we've heard where pastors don't know how to shut down. Right. And that, all of that can lead to burnout. I mean, we had a pastor pass out from the pulpit. Several months ago. I mean, like literally in the pulpit, they had to rush him to the hospital. And it turns out it was stress. And so
we've had some that even died on the pulpit.
And I think that's what you're saying. Like, relax when you rest. Like, turn your phone off. Church members who are calling you at 11 p.m., they can wait till 2 a.m. They can wait till 9 a.m. Like, there's nothing that's happening in your life that a pastor can solve at 11 p.m. Wasn't the pastor when we spoke at, I wouldn't mention the school, but we were teaching at the school, and he was like, last night one of my church members called me around 2 a.m. to tell me that his wife was in labor. And I was like, what did they want you to do? Pray. I'm like, bro, anyway, let me leave that alone.
I mean, you can imagine, coming from maybe counseling or helping to deal with someone, with some difficult situation, and you come home and it's time for maybe prayer meeting. I mean, what is wrong with a pastor to just say, Kai, I'm tired. I can't go for prayer meeting.
Honestly.
Let me just relax and catch a movie.
Wow.
A gossip for the
pastor don't want to come to prayer meeting. He wants to watch a movie. Oh, man.
Yeah, but we need to do that.
Learn the art of saying. Well, let me. Since you brought it up, and I'm jumping. So I'm skipping around here. So I would say for pastors, us pastors, especially Nigerian pastors, because that's been master the art of saying no.
Yeah.
I have literally had pastors and seminary students tell me that they really struggle with saying no because they felt like Jesus would never say no. And I'm like, are you serious? If you read through the gospel, I can count at least 5, maybe more, 5 occasions where Jesus literally said, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not going there. No, I'm not, right? Like Jesus not only that, I also point out the fact that on several occasions, Jesus not only said no, but he pulled away from the crowd just to get away from them. So I would say as pastors, we are not obliged to say yes to every single request.
That's true.
Especially if it comes at the cost of our emotional well-being. I understand that ministry is sacrifice. I get that. And there will be plenty of sacrifices.
Oh, sure.
But our focus as a ministry and our focus on this podcast is the emotional health of pastors, because our experience has been pastors don't take care of themselves. They work to the point of burnout. And I think somehow we think that's noble, that if we work to the point of stress and breakdown, then we're serving God. And I'm like, I think God would rather have you physically healthy in order to serve his people rather than you work to the point of physical and emotional exhaustion. So I would say part of how master the art of saying no, or saying, you know what, no, it's not going to work now. We can do that later.
Yeah.
Sorry, I skipped around here. I know we were,
Again, let's try to reconnect with our spouses. All right?
Yeah.
It is very, very important. I mean, God literally said, it is not good for the man to be alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right?
Husband,
I am going to provide for him a helper.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to have this in mind that, look, our wives are there to be our help.
Yeah.
And to be honest, connecting with your wife, just spending time with her and talking about, stuff, or just even having a good time with your wife helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it strengthens your marriage, right? Like, I mean, like there are things that one of some of the most rewarding times I've had is just meeting with my wife and midday, like surprising her and just meeting with her for lunch, or just connecting with her. But like we have to prioritize our spouses, pastors. Yeah. We have to, they are our first congregation, because I think we've said this in earlier episodes, but if things are chaotic at home, it is only a matter of weekends before it becomes chaotic in your ministry.
Certainly.
Your marriage, your children are your first congregation. They're your first ministry. So you have to invest in them.
And they can also be your primary source of, strength.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes that you need to forge ahead in ministry.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say for pastors, one of the things I would say to also help in the process is to talk to a close friend or a professional counselor. A lot of pastors are lonely. Yeah. A lot of pastors don't have close friends. And so what I would say is that if you're a pastor, number one, it's not taboo to speak to a professional counselor. Sure. I know some folks are like, pastor should pastor, he hears from God. What does he need? You need a counselor, bro. You need someone to listen for your blind spots. Yes, I know you're in your prayer mountain for 3 days, but come off the mountain, go speak to a counselor. All right. The Lord, God, the Spirit of God speaks through the community of God.
Sure.
So
I mean, when the Holy Spirit hit Paul, what was the next thing? Go and meet.
Yeah.
He was directed to
who was it? Was it who did they send? Oh my goodness. What's the name of the dude that came to get the scales off Paul? I'm drawing a blank completely right now. After Paul's conversion, is it Barnabas? What was it?
No.
Ananias. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Ananias.
Pastors forget things,
There you go. And I own it. I forgot. Okay, it happens. Ananias, there's this sense. Barnabas. I think about Barnabas and how, as effective as Paul's ministry was, Barnabas played a critical role. Barnabas, son of encouragement, right? Sure, and I'm sure he played a huge part in encouraging Paul. Let's do one or two. I think we're out of time. Are we out of time? We're way out of time. All right. Okay. Let's do one more and let's wrap it up.
All right.
Let's do 9. These are the ones we wrote. So you want to take it?
Delegate.
Yeah.
Empower others to lead.
Yeah.
It's very important. You talked about this illustration you gave about the
glass ball and the rubber ball.
And the rubber ball.
Yeah.
I mean, delegation is, look, there are some things that even when it falls on the ground, it bounce back and you can pick it up. So why not delegate such things, And then you can hold on to the glass ball, responsibility. Once that, all right, when it falls, I mean, it's gone, So we need to learn.
Even in a church of 20, even if it's a small church, like there should be some things you should entrust. And part of that is training people and being willing to release things. All right. So I think we went, I don't know what our time, our our producers are eyeing us funny. Last one. I would say, if you're living it, actually, we're going to offer this online. So in the next week or two, or possibly already, either in the link or online, we offer soul care. Our soul care training is going to be offered online. The link will will either be in the bio, in the caption, or in the description.
Yeah.
Take our soul care course. We're going to be offering it online. You can take it on Zoom, no matter where you are in the world. And I really think it'll be a blessing to you. And your family.
It's going to be a huge blessing. You're going to be taught how to kind of unpack some of the pain and the things that are causing you burnout.
And Pastor Joshua and I will be teaching it. So please be a part of that. All right. Thank you all so much for being with us today. I really hope this podcast has been a blessing. This episode has been a blessing. If you were blessed by this discussion, we want to encourage you to please share this podcast, the video, the audio, no matter what platform you're in. Share it with other pastors, other ministry leaders who you think would be blessed by it. It would be a real honor. And
of course, we'd love to hear from you. If there's any platform, I mean, if you're on any of the platform that gives you the prompt to respond, please do so. We'll be here, happy to hear from you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you guys. Thanks.